All right, we are back for 2010 here, and by back I mean you didn't get to see the production of us having to pause for a second, but that's okay, fans. And back for 2010, which is pretty solid year for some popular movies, I will say.
I think so. Yeah.
Highest grossing, although it is 2009 release, it is so late in the game, it dominates 2010, and that is Avatar. That is the highest grossing film of 2010.
Yep.
Other notable films of the year: Toy Story 3, Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, which I think is an underrated film. The MCU continues with one of its weaker ventures in Iron Man 2. Twilight is in full effect. Inception is here, and then we get the start of the end for the Harry Potter franchise in Deathly Hallows Part 1. And then we get a lot of really high quality animation with How to Train Your Dragon, Despicable Me, Tangled. You're starting to really see studios go, oh, we need money makers, just make a cartoon movie. Families will show up and pay for it. Megamind
hmm
is also in this, Shrek Forever After. And what clearly is everyone's favorite film of the year, The Last Airbender, is released. And
Ooh, good
yeah, I
movie.
saw that one. I went, oh, I gotta mention that. Along with Tron Legacy, Jackass 3D is all to show you the trends. We had to have Jackass in 3D, and then some other notable things that just we love, but not everyone else loves. So uh,
Yeah.
it's an interesting year for film because at first I looked and I went, I don't think that's that good of a year, and I went, yeah, it's actually a pretty solid year, and
Yeah.
it's when superhero movies were on the rise, but they didn't just dominate like they do now, or especially the past decade. So to only get one real big superhero movie during this time frame is almost like shocking. Right? I just went, oh shit, it's just one Iron Man movie. Okay.
Yeah. Um 2010 is, I would probably say, the worst Oscar ceremony in recent history.
Is that Franco and Anne
Uh,
Hathaway?
Oh yeah.
Oh
It
yeah.
is. When I was rewatching the videos, it was painful watching cuz it's like you can see Anne Hathaway trying so hard to make the show work. And James Franco either just not giving a shit or just like completely out of it. I don't know which one it
I
is.
believe he came
It's
out and said he
instead
was
like
super high or something like that the entire time.
okay,
But
well,
at the same
yeah,
time, I don't know that, and that would be a real convenient in modern day context way
yeah,
to kind of save your image a little bit, being like, oh, I was just high the whole time, so who knows?
yeah. Well, to be that completely like apathetic and like disrespectful to the person you're hosting with is like
I think that's the big thing. Is I think
it's like the biggest dick move possible. And I
on
don't even like Anne Hathaway that much.
see the funny part is as someone who's always liked Anne Hathaway, I never understood why so many people just like had this weird hate for Anne Hathaway.
Oh, I don't understand that. No.
But ironically enough, in the course of one night, the vast majority of public perception went from oh this Anne Hathaway girl to I feel so bad for her, and everyone started to like
Yeah.
her, and she started to appear some bigger stuff that was a little bit more popular, and it wasn't just like rando movie roles or Disney roles like back in the day, where for a while she was doing like she had what Love and Other Drugs and other shit like that, and it's like
Mhm.
very much there's a milieu of movies she made, and in a couple years
Well,
from
she's yeah, in a couple of years she'll still be facing like a lot of the like
weird hate.
completely unnecessary hate with Les Mis. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Like it was painful watching them because it's just like you can see Anne Hathaway, like you could see her brain like trying to work out like, okay, how am I gonna fix this? But there's just nothing she can do.
And
Literally
also
nothing.
and it's just hard. It's just hard to watch. And I remember the dialogue cuz I was starting to at least usually watch the Oscars at this time. And it was always like, "Oh, Billy Crystal, the only one who's ever made this show watchable."
he becomes the host next year because
Well,
of this.
because of it, because it was always the Billy's not going to do another one, and then it was this was so bad we have to do whatever we can to get Billy back.
Yeah.
But I remember the big dialogue was we got to make this appeal to younger people. We can't keep doing this older show. And then I remember they went and got Anne Hathaway and James Franco, and I just went, that's an odd
So
pairing. I got Anne Hathaway because I was like, she's a young starlet who has a lot of respect, and she is
when I was
entertaining and
doing
fun, but I don't know about
when I was
this.
doing some research, apparently they first approached Justin Timberlake.
Would
And I
have
was
done a
like,
lot better job.
her and Justin Timberlake could have worked. They can both sing and dance at least. Like they could do something together.
Yep.
Like they
Plus,
could put on a show at least.
The Social Network is out this year, if I recall correctly, which you're hitting on Justin Timberlake
Yeah.
becoming more of a
Well,
star.
that might have been why he said no. Like he was pushing really hard for a nomination or the Social Network,
Well,
and he didn't get one.
this is certainly the year that it went from, oh, Justin Timberlake's doing movies to, oh shit, maybe there is something to this
Uh,
guy.
I'm sorry, Justin Timberlake. You're not going to get a nomination if Andrew Garfield didn't get one. Like, sorry,
Yeah.
it's just a fact.
But it's certainly a weird and interesting show, to say the least.
Oh
And
yeah, it
my
was.
God, do you
It
feel
was not
bad?
fun rewatching.
I would never even want to, because I still am scarred by just going. I think I turned it off, and I would just
Yeah,
occasionally put it back on just to see who won. But I was like, I'm not watching this shit. Like, this is
yeah, yeah.
awful.
And then to add to the terrible host, this is also one of those years where it's just like all the categories are pretty much decided before the fact. Like all the actors had been pretty much sweeping everything, so it's like, okay, we already know who the winner is going in pretty much. So it's like those are the years where it's just like unless there's a huge just twist in the plot,
Yeah.
which is like the best times where you get like a Adrian Brody winning, that's the fun years. Like
Yes.
very rarely do you get one of
Yeah.
those.
No, because they're the six, are now in modern parlance, the seven seed that barely makes the playoffs and makes a Super
Yeah,
Bowl run, and you just go, what?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I think of like the 2010 Packer team. They barely eked into the playoffs, and everyone's like, I mean, they're here, sure. And then they made a Super Bowl run. Everyone, went, God damn, okay. Like, it was just one of those wild ass fucking times.
Yeah,
And those are certainly the fun ones because you get the swerve. Like, it's the same reason people like watching certain events on television or other stuff because they just go, didn't see that one coming. That's fun.
hmm
Yeah, I have some technical changes, and I have
yeah,
some
yep.
big changes.
All right. So technical, what do you got?
So I just want to say shout out to this movie because overall it's not very good, but it won for the right thing. Make up for the Wolfman. I'm really glad it won. I love the Wolfman. It's not a great movie, but you and I have big history in the theater with
Yeah,
that one with our friend Itner. We love that movie, but it's not great.
yeah. I was gonna say guilty pleasure, but it's not a guilty pleasure. It's just a pleasure.
Yeah, it's just a pleasure. Good shout out to Wolfman. I'm glad it won. You're gonna be shocked. I have a lot of play for Christopher Nolan. We'll get to that in a second. But another
Okay. Yep.
shocked. I was happy that it didn't get one because I thought this movie was garbage. But I was shocked it didn't get a nom for visual effects. Was Tron Legacy? Not even a nomination. I was like, holy shit. Okay, because everyone, I remember that Christmas season, everybody just losing their fucking mind over Tron. I was like, this movie looks like it sucks. And then the bits and pieces that I have seen that movie, I went, this is garbage. Like, this is straight
Yeah.
garbage.
Well, it's not a great movie, and also it's one of those like early de aging ones too, where it doesn't age well.
Well, the other thing is, it's that one. Tron Legacy was, to me, was kind of like a follow up to Avatar, where it was all sizzle and no steak. And people were like, just look
Sure.
at it. And I just went, but is there, like, even as a kid, I was able to go, but is there a story here?
Yes, but also it's a lot easier to make a black void with a bunch of like neon lights than it is to make entire world in Avatar.
Yeah,
Like,
I was shocked, but I was very pleasantly surprised that
yeah,
it
no,
didn't
I
get nominated.
completely agree. Like, I'm glad that didn't get nominated.
Other technical categories that I have, now comes my Christopher Nolan defense at all times. Original score. I don't understand the Social Network win. I don't get that.
Oh, I completely disagree.
I would have picked Time from Inception, or honestly, I would have picked How to Train Your Dragon, which I think is a really
Hey,
great modern score.
I forgot that that got a nomination, and I'm really glad that it did because I was like, like like the past like 10 years, I'm like, that's a really underrated score. And then when I was going back and looking at this year's nominations, I was like, hey, nice! I didn't realize it got nominated.
Yeah.
I'm really glad it did.
I mean, here's the thing:
Um,
they're making the live action version, and
oh
it's coming.
God,
It's
are
coming.
they?
Yes, they are. And the trailer
Oh,
dropped like a month ago or something like that.
oh
And
no,
I'm not a huge How to Train Your Dragon person. Ab likes it a lot more than I do. And
like the first one a lot.
I remember she said, I don't want to. I don't care." I was like, "Well, just watch it." And then by the end of it, she's like, oh, "It's just a big kitty dragon again." Yeah, I want to go see that. I was like, "I knew you would." But even I, when the score drops at the end of the trailer, I just went, "Yeah, god damn it, that's a really good that's a really good
Yeah.
score." To even where I had like a little bit of the feels, and I'm like, I don't even care about this franchise. Like it's one of the franchises that it didn't come out at the right time for me, where I probably would
Yeah,
have been
we were a
obsessed
little
with it.
too old. Yeah.
I would have been obsessed with it probably as a kid. You know, like, oh, dragon trainers in a fantasy setting, that's right up my alley, right? But it just came out at the wrong time of life for me. But and like ever since becoming an adult, very much I am sadly probably a stereotypical adult. I'm like, animation's not really my thing. I'll go back and watch it, but it's not usually what's gonna draw me. But even I had when the trailer dropped and the score went, I went, that's pretty good. I gotta give that score a lot. So
Mhm.
I'm someone who I think the social networks. I'm far more of a
I would
I like
be
the big operatic big stuff. I don't usually go for more of the understated stuff like
I would
social
be
network.
if you rewatched it, I'd be curious what you'd say because I just rewatched it not that long ago. Because I think what was I doing? Maybe I just felt like rewatching. I can't remember. I watched it for some reason though, but I was like really blown away by the score.
Huh.
It was because I saw a YouTube video with Atticus Fin, Atticus Ross, and what's the other guy's name?
Trent Reznor from Nine Inch
Trent
Nails.
Reznor. Thank you. Yeah, they were talking about their scores, and I was like, hearing them talk about it made me want to rewatch it. So I went back and rewatched it,
So
and
I
I was
did.
like,
I went back and listened, and I think this one really to me comes back down to taste. I like the really big romantic
sure.
stuff. I don't like some of the understated stuff a lot of the times.
That they just get like the feeling of loneliness that I really, really appreciate in
Sure.
that movie.
Which I think it's. I'm not saying it's a bad score, but in listening to it, I went, to me, these don't compare. These two are far better than this, but that's just, again, my taste and my sensibility.
Yeah.
Editing should have been Inception.
I didn't have a change in that, but I also had a nomination that I would have liked to see for Shutter Island.
Yeah, for editing, I can see that.
And the specific reason is I think the editing actually works better if you know the ending because knowing the ending and you know what his mindset is supposed to be like and you know like it's supposed to be like this jumbled mess of a brain that you're living in.
Yeah,
I think the editing makes a lot more sense.
yeah, I can see your point now. That's true. Because I
Yeah.
do remember even in the theater, you and I watching that and just going like, "Fuck's going on?" Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's like what why is this happening?
yeah, it's just
Um
it was hard to follow, and I think it's certainly one that I don't think Shutter Island. I don't want to come off as somebody who's like a Shutter Island apologist or anything. That's like so
oh,
much
I
better
definitely
than
am.
people. I know you are.
I love
Well,
it.
I know you had already seen Leonardo DiCaprio and other stuff. People will never understand the love you gain from that movie for Leonardo DiCaprio. That's the one that you went to. Leo is my guy, and I don't care. Leo is my
Yeah,
guy.
he's great in it.
And I think he is great in it, but it's certainly a movie in which I have vivid memories of being in the theater and just kind of looking at our group and just going like, the fuck's going on here? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, yeah, that's the unfortunate thing about that movie is like the editing and the filmmaking of it works better knowing the twist of it. So
Yep.
it's like
It's the anti
it's
it's
unfortunate.
the anti Sixth Sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where it's better
It
once you know.
requires a rewatch.
Yeah, where you can look at it and go, I think this is better knowing the twist because then I get it more, and
Yeah.
it fits that well. But yeah, I would have had Inception winning editing. I just think the edits
I
towards
don't
the
mind that. Yeah.
I think the edits towards the end bring so much tension to the end
Trying
of
to
that
see
film.
who else was nominated. Honestly, I'm not upset with any of those nominations though. Like even The King's Speech has like really fantastic editing. You would think like it'd be a boring like period piece. It has like really upbeat and like really energetic editing at points, which is
Okay.
really fun actually,
Yeah, it
which you
was.
rarely get in period pieces.
Yeah. Well, admittedly, the King's Speech has never been something I've gone back and rewatched. I've seen little bits and pieces of it, and it's never been anything that draws me.
That's definitely another one where I did not enjoy it when I first watched it, and I now appreciate it a lot more.
Oh,
Like definitely I would have said like in the bottom 30 when I first watched it, and I'd say probably in the top half now.
okay. Um, Again, original screenplay would have went Inception. I think that's just such a magnificent piece of writing. The way that it's all managed. The thing is, this is Inception. To me,
I'm gonna
is
break your mind right now and say I agree with you.
usually when it comes to Christopher Nolan, don't because I am such a stan. But
Yes.
I think that is such an achievement of writing. That movie is tailor made for someone like me who always has to be this friend to explain the movie throughout. That movie is tailor made of, well, you're going to need Evan there because then he'll explain the whole thing. Like, I still have vivid memories being in Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. And everyone's like, what the fuck's going on? I had to be like, it's this, that. That's why this is happening. Oh, okay. Or like superhero movies. I always have to do that for everybody. That movie is tailor made for you need an Evan in your group for like your more regular moviegoers, and nobody has to ask a question. It's all extremely straightforward, coherent. You understand it, and that is not an easy to understand concept. And the way it is
Yeah,
written
well,
does a really good job of making you
that's something
understand.
about Christopher Nolan that most people appreciate is his structure is usually very easy to understand. Even in Memento, it's easy to understand.
Yeah, I mean Christopher Nolan's the best modern director, so that makes sense.
And something about like original screenplay, this is just my point of view, is like I'm always gonna lean more towards like something that is completely original. Whereas like The King's Speech, it is original screenplay, right?
Yeah,
But it's completely based on history. Like you have the basis of the story already there for you. You're just creating the actual screenplay of it.
yes.
Whereas like Inception, that's literally from the inception of your idea, you're creating a story and the screenplay. So
Eh,
I would tend towards that being more original.
So that is inherently where I think I'm just like you, and I mentioned that again in writing in 2009 as well. I think Glorious Bastards or Up, I find it far more impressive when you write films like that. I like as you said, the King's Speech has grown on you. I've never fully watched the King's Speech. Again, I've seen bits and pieces of it. Doesn't intrigue me. It's not my cup of tea. At least from what I've seen. I probably would enjoy it if I went back and watched it, but this was a clear like this was one of those years that I was gutted, where I just went, I have no faith in you fuckers ever. I have zero faith that any movie that actually is like super original and super cool and inspiring is ever gonna win over a fucking period piece. So I don't care. But this is one
Yeah.
of those years
Well,
for me,
unfortunately, eh, no matter what, Inception had zero chance of winning.
which is wrong, but because it's the best movie of 2010.
Because it was either going to be The King's Speech, The Social Network. It was pretty much those two. That was it. It
Inception's
was down
better
to
than
those
both
two.
by a wide mile, but that's fine.
No, not even close.
Inception's so much
The
better.
Social Network is a superior movie.
I I will disagree forever, but Social Network's
Um,
good. I would have appreciated the Social. I would probably have been like fine, but I think you'll be shocked that my other big changes are director and and best picture. But also, can you look up the director category for me?
yeah, what are you wondering?
I for some reason I feel like Christopher Nolan didn't even get nominated,
No, he didn't.
which is
So you're
horse shit. Absolute
so
horse shit.
yeah. Tom Hooper won for The King's Speech, and then the other nominees were Aaron Aronofsky for Black Swan, the Coen Brothers for True Grit, David Fincher for
Hi
The
Emma.
Social Network, and David Russell for The Fighter.
Wrong. Christopher Nolan should be in that category. I don't know who you take out. Lift one out. Christopher Nolan's better.
I'd agree he's worthy of a nomination. There's two in there that I don't agree with. I don't as much as I love the Coen brothers, I don't really understand their nomination for True Grit.
I remember True Grit kind of getting this weird groundswell at that time where people were like, oh, isn't it cool? Because it was like a throwback to an old Western and like we'd harken back to John Wayne and all this kind of stuff. But that was another one where it feels like
Yeah. I
name
do
value
enjoy their
got someone in versus the
yeah.
actual work.
I do enjoy that movie like a lot more than I enjoy the original cuz I kind of hate the original, mostly just cuz I can't really get past how much I don't enjoy John Wayne as a person.
Fair.
But yeah, I don't really enjoy that nomination. And then I don't I don't love Black Swan, so it's another one that I'm
Black
like,
Swan is
eh.
another one of those movies that for 2 years was like a really big deal, and then after those 2 years passed, no one gives a fuck anymore.
I think Natalie Portman's performance in it is great, but it's another one where the performance is great, but the movie to me is just forgettable.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of how those movies go. And again, it's exactly like I said. It's one of those movies that is super big for a year or two and then just disappears, and no one talks about
But
it,
I
and
mean,
no
that's
one cares.
completely like yeah, and that's completely personal choice because there are a lot of like weird, interesting filmmaking choices in it.
Yeah,
Like you're always gonna get that with Aronofsky. It's just I don't really connect with it all that much.
sure.
Yeah, one oh no, I have a couple actually that you didn't mention. So adapted screenplay nomination for Shutter Island. I had to throw it in.
Throw it in.
Animated feature nomination for Tangled. They only did 3 nominations, I'm fairly
Yeah,
certain.
that's so dumb. This
Yeah,
this is
they only did
clearly
3 nominations.
this is clearly the year that you can step it up to five and still have real contenders. Not
Yeah, I don't really understand why they keep doing the 3. Yeah, and then I said my other one, which was film editing for nomination for Shutter Island. Jumping into the 5 categories. So as I said, Tom Hooper won for The King's Speech. Colin Firth won for The King's Speech. Natalie Portman for Black Swan. Supporting actor Christian Bale wins for The Fighter.
about time.
And then supporting actress Melissa Leo for The Fighter. And all of those acting nominees were like shoo-ins. They won literally everything
Yeah,
building up to the Oscars.
that
So
was another. another reason why that year I was just like, who fucking cares? Like, who cares?
Yeah,
I watched a little bit of it just to ensure Christian Bale won. That was it. I just went, okay.
yeah. And then director was the only one that actually had somewhat of a it's a toss up kind of because Fincher had won, I believe, yeah, he had won everything except the Directors Guild Award.
Oh,
So he,
that's an
yeah,
interesting
so he
one to
had won
not
all
win.
the, yeah, exactly. So he had won all the Guild Awards except the biggest one. So it's like, it's a toss up at that point where it's like, okay, what's more important?
Yeah.
And most likely you're going to go with the Directors Guild because that's probably the majority of the voting body of the Academy.
Sure.
Tom Hooper, yeah, I like I said, I do enjoy the King's Speech, but it's hard to argue that The Social Network isn't more impressive and a better film to me.
The Social Network is a really good movie.
And the thing
It
about The
is.
Social Network that I really really love is I think it's going to age. I don't think as well, but I will say I think it will age similarly to Citizen Kane, where the story may not be as relevant as it was at the time. Like obviously Facebook's not going to be relevant in 50 years, but
One could argue it's not relevant now. So, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But the movie could stay relevant because it's an examination of a character rather than a story about Facebook.
See, that's the thing I was about to say is I'm glad you brought that up. That movie can and will stand the test of time because it's not about Facebook. Like everyone's like, "Oh, it's
Exactly.
the movie about Facebook." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. This is a movie about people." And that will always draw people in. There's a reason
Yeah.
that at least once or twice a week to this day, I still see memes or clip from the social network online all the time of people just being like using it for other things or like the scene in which they're talking about how all the shares are diluted and they screw over
Yep.
Savron or whatever and like everything that's happening or how he just loses all of his friends out of his own ambition and greed and all those
Hmm.
things like those things will always stand the test of time because they're human. They're not
Exactly.
they're not about Facebook because yeah, if it was a movie about Facebook, it would have been popular for 2 years and then people would have been like, Facebook's old. Who cares?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like when you tell a story of, I don't know, like if you tell a story of like that BlackBerry movie that got made,
Yeah.
like, who remembers that fucking movie? No one. But
I, I mean,
people remember movies
I
like this.
I look at popular culture. There's a lot of movies that are of their time, and they are very popular in their time. But 5, 10 years down the road, you'd kind of going, okay,
Yeah.
because they're not these great examinations of people, or there's not that thing that's universal to drive you. It's just universal to your time, and that's how it goes. I mean, there's a reason there like half the movies of yesteryear that everyone's like, what a classic. A lot of people be like, I thought that movie kind of sucked because there's just not something universal to it to really actually appeal to a modern viewer. You're just kind of like, okay, I mean, yeah, it's a movie. Okay,
Yeah. That's why I think The Social Network deserves the editing award too, is because like the structure of like cutting between the courtroom stuff, or I guess it's not actually a courtroom,
the
but
settlement
like
with the lawyers and everything else. Yeah,
yeah, and then like back to his early days at college, and to the early days at Facebook, and then when he's broken apart with all his friends and stuff. I really like how they split up between those like there's like four different time periods they're really telling the story of.
yeah.
I love how they're cutting between those, so I really enjoy that
I mean, it's
editing of that.
notice I did not say anything about original screenplay fighting so much as I was like, I just like Inception more. But The Social Network, I was like, yeah, I can't argue it's bad. You know, I was like,
Yeah.
that's a hell of a piece of
Um,
writing on Sorkin's part. That's no one can argue
and
that.
then everyone said it from when they announced the nominees. It is like a true crime that Andrew Garfield didn't get a nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
He brings a
It's
lot of
like
the
so
heart and the
confusing.
relatability to that movie. Yeah, it's
Yes,
tough.
and he's fantastic in that movie. It is like I would argue, uh, other than Christian Bale in The Fighter, it's the best performance of a supporting actor that year. And I would say it's on par with Christian Bale. Like, I would be totally fine if Andrew Garfield won the Oscar for it.
I think it's just more that movie. Obviously, the biggest points of tension in that movie all involve Andrew Garfield. But a lot of that movie doesn't have Andrew Garfield in it at all. It kind of like sort of like phases him out to a degree.
Yeah, but that's the supporting actor.
And I think maybe I'm just trying to find a solution to why, as opposed to saying like, "Oh
Especially
no,
when you consider, like, there has been supporting actors who won Oscars for
3 minutes."
screen time of 8 minutes. Yeah.
I don't have an answer for you there. I wish I did, but let's get to Best Picture.
Best Picture. So, the winner, The King's Speech. Other nominees, 127 Hours, The Social Network, Toy Story 3, True Grit, Winter's Bone, which was a huge surprise at the time, Black Swan, The Fighter, The Kids Are All Right, and Inception.
We already know one of my choices, but
Yes.
I also would have argued for Toy Story 3. And I would have
Not
argued
being in
for
there?
no,
Or winning?
for winning. And I would have been fine
Okay,
with The
okay.
Social Network winning over King's Speech. But again,
I
period piece
said
doesn't get
Social
to me.
Network. I said Social Network winning. Is there anything you would have taken out for another
I don't
movie?
have enough to say I would have taken something out, and I don't know of another movie that'd be like, oh yeah. But granted, this isn't a swap situation where back in the day you had the finite five and you had to swap them out. Now it's just like I don't
I
know.
have
You
I have
breathed and it
two.
was good, so we can put you
I
in.
I would have taken out Winter's Bone, and I would have taken out Black Swan, and I would have put in The Town and Shutter Island.
I don't think Shutter Island is of that quality. I think
I
it's an
I
underappreciated
think it's
movie, but I don't think it's that
criminally
good.
underrated.
I don't agree with you. I enjoy it. You know it. I enjoy it. We both enjoyed watching that movie together. But The Town, I think, is criminal. Like when you talk about criminally underrated, I think The Town is criminally
Yeah.
because that's
I
the
think it
first
only gets
movie in forever that Ben Affleck is playing a legit like God damn he's good,
yeah.
and
And I'm
people
pretty
did
sure it gets
not want
one
to give it credit.
nomination. It gets one nomination for Jeremy Renner for supporting actor, and I think that's
No.
it.
Yes, I saw that and I was like, oh shit, The Town. The Town. I honestly, truly believe The Town is just people were not ready for Ben Affleck to be taken seriously. Because remember, this is the time when he's going
Yeah,
through.
that is its only nomination.
This is the time Ben Affleck's going through a bunch of personal issues, or after the time he's gone through the first big wave of public personal issues. He's coming off a string of bad movies where you just didn't even like see Ben Affleck and stuff for a while because it was so bad, like Geely and shit like that years past. And I remember The Town came out, and at first I was like, "This is like Ben Affleck. I don't want to watch that fucking movie. Everything Ben Affleck touches sucks." And then I don't know what it was, but I just gave it a shot and I went, "Holy shit, this movie's good. This movie's
Yeah,
really good." And that's the movie that got me to go, "Nah, I'm done with my Ben Affleck hate. I fucking love Ben Affleck and shit. Like this is awesome."
yeah, that I would agree. Criminally underrated.
Which is
And I
funny
think
because
most
about
people
criminals.
actually have I think most people actually have seen The Town and agree.
I think it's a little bit. I think it's a better version of District 9, but in the similar conversation of what we talked about, where if
Sure.
it comes
Yeah.
up in conversation, people go, God damn, that was good, right? But no one ever brings it up because it's just one of those movies that came and
Yeah.
went and was rad, and that was it. So, uh,
Oh, I also forgot to mention a shout out to nomination for Leo in Shutter Island.
of course
Just,
you do.
just to
I
put it in
could
there.
at least, I would accept that over Best Picture. I would accept
No,
that over Best Picture.
it's got to be in there.
Also, I'd be remiss because we've just kind of been walking around it a lot. Toy Story 3 is so fucking good.
It is.
That movie is
It is like
incredible. And I understand we are the target audience, and that is why our entire generation just goes, it is the untouchable. It's the
it
untouchable
might
animated
be
film of all time, but
it might be the greatest like finale of a trilogy other than Return of the King.
yeah.
Like it's hard to say it's
Other
not
than
second.
Return of the King, I think you're correct.
Yeah. Cuz it's better than Return of the Jedi easily.
Yeah, it's better than The Dark Knight Rises. It's better than just trying to think of other really good trilogies. Yeah,
Better
I
than Superman 3.
no shit.
Better than The Hobbit.
Yeah, yeah. I will again
Better than
talk about
Godfather 3.
talk about a 1-2 punch, man, or for Pixar. Hey, you guys
Yeah.
remember how we made you cry last year? Get ready. Like
I would have been totally fine with them winning Best
the
Picture for that.
scene Toy Story 3 when they're in the incinerator and they all hold hands and you're like, this is how it ends. If you're not sobbing, you're not human. You are can go fuck yourself, dude.
Yeah. There's a one of the challenging things about when they nominate Best Picture and it's an animated movie is that and they also get a nomination for Best Animated Feature. It's like, oh, gee, I wonder who's gonna win this. It's like it's almost that thing where like if they get a Best Picture nomination, should they also be eligible for Best Animated Feature then?
Yeah, I think that's a really tough middle ground to be in, and I think it's just
Exactly.
I think 2 years in a row they just lucked out that there were movies that they deserved both.
Yeah, I'm always like of the opinion like if it deserves Best Picture, it deserves Best Picture nomination, but it is probably also the best animated feature. So it's like it deserve both. But
Well, yeah,
you could see the argument like, what's the point of the redundancy of it?
yeah, because because the flip side of that argument is it gets a nomination for Best Picture and it doesn't win Best Animated Feature. Is then you have a whole bunch of people. Hold on, How to Train Your Dragon's better than Toy Story 3? Are you kidding me? Like
Yeah,
that's and it takes away the
exactly.
credibility of the award because you're like, hey, all due respect to How to Train Your Dragon or anything else nominated that year, fuck you. Toy Story 3 is better, and everybody knows
Yeah.
that. It's just factually inarguable, essentially. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tough subject to cover because you're like, I don't know, sure,
Favorite
but
movie of 2010?
I'm gonna shock you. It's not Inception, which,
Oh,
but that's because
okay.
my favorite comfort movie of all time came out this year. It's Tucker and Dale versus Evil, baby.
Oh, okay.
Two of my top 10 movies of all time come out in 2010. It's a strong year for Evan Davies.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I would probably say Toy Story 3, if not that, Shutter Island, but
I also
Toy Story 3
adore
is above that.
I also adore my favorite Ridley Scott movie of all time comes out this year in Robin Hood with Russell Crowe and Kate Blanchett. I adore that movie.
Yeah, that movie. That's something.
I fucking love that movie. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. I love it. I watch it
It
all the time.
I remember the last time I rewatched it, which had to be like at least 10 years ago. I remember it just being way more boring than I remembered it.
Yes, I know most people are like, "What a boring movie." I adore it. It's a comfort movie for sure. And I'd be remiss, and we didn't say this. Favorite Harry Potter movie comes out this year. Deathly Hallows Part One.
Your favorite?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think
Okay.
Deathly Hallows Part 1 is by far the best of that series.
No, not even
I
close.
think
Prisoner of Azkaban, superior.
all the emotional weight of that series is in Part 1. Part 2, I don't think is anywhere near as good as Part 1.
Well, I mean, I would agree with that point,
I just think
but
I think the only thing I will say about Harry Potter as a film franchise that was tough for me was like Goblet of Fire and even Prisoner of Azkaban are supposed to be these like big emotionally heavy things where you start feeling the weight of the world coming down on you.
mhm,
And admittedly, I didn't get any of that until Part 1. Part 1's the one where I
oh,
went, "Wow, they are really showing how much of a burden this is to these three, but specifically Harry." But the three of them are the ones that like they are carrying the burden of the world, and it's truly breaking them. Like it's the first time I ever saw a parable of fantasy between them and like Lord of the Rings, where you can see the burden of the ring throughout the entire trilogy of Lord of the Rings,
yeah,
and you can really feel it and understand it. Part 1's the first time I ever went, yeah, this is bullshit that these kids have to go through this. Like that sucks.
yeah. I think it's different if you read the books while you watch it. So
But yeah, I think that's why I'm like, okay, because I didn't read the full series until I was past the movies. So, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that too, because I think it's definitely my favorite Harry Potter film.
okay, so BAFTA Rising Star. Here we go.
Boy,
Nominations: Aaron Taylor Johnson, Gemma Arterton, Emma Stone, Tom Hardy, Andrew Garfield.
that's a hell of a
Quite a
category.
lineup. Yeah.
Of that category, who do you take? If you got to take one, who are you taking?
I mean, I have my personal choice of who I would have picked, but who do you think BAFTA chose?
BAFTAs? That's giving me Tom Hardy, but yeah, I'll pick Tom Hardy for a BAFTA Rising Star Award.
You got it. Ding,
Yeah,
ding, ding.
but what a hell of a lineup. Read that
I know.
lineup
I was like,
again. Read that lineup again.
Aaron, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Gemma Arterton, Emma Stone, Tom Hardy, and Andrew Garfield.
That's a hell of a lineup. If Aaron Taylor Johnson is your fourth best in that list, you're doing
Yeah, I was
pretty
gonna
well.
say.
And the other thing is this:
Yeah,
she gets unrightfully shit on because she just always picks bad movies. Jim Arterton is actually pretty damn good. I
yeah,
always like her and what she's doing. It's just she's always in these weird ass movies that like they
yeah,
never do well. She just needs one of the. She needs to just get put into a really good movie once.
yeah. And she might be in like some British like movies or TV shows that we just never see.
Yeah, she just needs one of those big. You know what she needs? She needs to just be part of the ensemble in a Christopher Nolan, and then everyone will be like, "God damn,
That'd
she's
be
so good."
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know what I'm saying? Just like she's like the fifth player in a movie like Oppenheimer, where you can still shine because it's Christopher Nolan, and you know there's going to be screen time because it's Christopher Nolan, but she's not like the star. But everyone's gonna be like, "I really like her. She's really good." Like,
Yeah, I think she's really charming whenever I see her.
yeah, I love her in Quantum of Solace, and that's not a movie to make people shine. And I love her in that movie.
No, it is not.
It is by far the weakest of the Daniel Craig series of Bond films.
Yeah.
It's not even close. That is by far the least of the five that he is in, and I still enjoy her presence in that movie. But yeah, no, that was 2010, folks. 2010. We're gonna be moving on to 2011.